Alrighty, hello. Let's talk turkey and turn the music down. Good God. Oh, I was trying to pick up my music from two ends. Okay. Hello. We are going to be taking a look at the... Hey Adam, what's up? We're going to be taking a look at some of these cards from the preview. I say some, we're going to be taking a look at all of them. So, first one we're going to be taking a look at is Helia, the Radiant Dawn. I just want to get right into this because I've been having an itch to stream this anyhow. Helia, the Radiant Dawn. He's 2 and 2 white for a legendary enchantment creature god, and whenever he enters the battlefield, you return target enchantment card that isn't a god from your graveyard to your hand. And then, for 3 and a Phyrexian blue, you can transform him, but you can only do it as a sorcery. And he turns into Helia, the Warped Eclipse. You may cast spells as though they had flash. Spells you cast cost 1 less to cast for each card your opponents have drawn this turn. Now, taking one look at this card, it's pretty obvious that this card's just really strong. I mean, like, so, the front side is nothing impressive. It's a 4-mana 4/4 that returns an enchantment from your graveyard to your hand. It's, you know, it's hit or miss on that part, but paying 3, you don't even have to run blue to have this card. You can literally just, you could run this in mono blue, so, or mono white. I actually see this being a solid card in a mono white build because of the idea that it's a 4-mana 4/4, gets an enchantment back. Enchantments usually don't really do that much. Like, there's no mono white deck right now that utilizes enchantments heavily. But I feel like this is a good fit in a lot of different decks right now. Currently in Standard is what I'm talking about. The idea that gives you... It's a Vedalken Orrery that makes your stuff cost 1 less to cast for each card your opponents draw on this turn. Well, it's a Vedalken Orrery that reduces the costs of your spells. So, 4-mana 4/4 that does that. Trying to think of what kind of enchantments tend to end up in the yard. I guess Theros has creature enchantments. Yeah, it's just... like, that part is... This card could essentially just be a 4-mana 4/4, and it does nothing else. And then you flip it, and the backside is where it's at. I think that this card is actually going to be something that we see in a lot of control shells in Standard. Because blue-white control, or Esper control, all these different control shells are like getting really prominent right now. This is just another piece that they don't really need. Now, there is a card called Audacity. It says whenever enchanted creature enchanted with Audacity is put into the graveyard and play draw a card. So the green-white enchantment thing might come back because we still have the Kamigawa stuff. So I don't know. It's this card's really strong, and I think it'll be really strong for Standard. I don't know exactly where it fits in yet. In Commander, blue-white enchantments. I mean, yeah, absolutely. Blue-white enchantments at instant speed. You can cast your Path to Exile, or not Path to Exile, but Oblivion Ring effects at instant speed, and they cost less. And if your opponent's drawing a lot of cards, they can be really cheap. Like, or you can play like a group hug sort of deck and benefit from it. Have your opponents keep drawing cards. You can play stuff like Howling Mine and stuff like that, and Temple Bell. Like, force them to draw cards, give them what they want, but also give yourself the discounts that you're looking for. It also says spells you cast cost 1 less to cast for each card your opponents have drawn this turn. So 1 activation of Temple Bell in a 4-player setting in Commander will make your stuff cost 3 less. So that's just 1 activation of Temple Bell. So is this card good? Yeah, I think it'd be a really awesome Commander to play. I mean, if you like group hug style decks, this will definitely be a really fun group hug sort of thing to play around with. I like it a lot. If I had to give it a rating, I'd say it's probably 3, let's say out of 10. So probably like a 6 or a 7 out of 10. The front side's, the back side is what we're looking for. Next up's Fairy Mastermind. Fairy Mastermind, funnily enough, they started, recently they started putting World Champions faces back on cards, and Yuta Takahashi is the person represented on this card, and I think that's awesome. I love to see it. So, 1 and a blue for a 2/1 with flash and flying. Whenever an opponent draws their second card each turn, you draw a card, and then you can pay 3 and a blue to for each player to draw a card. So, Is this card good? Yeah, absolutely. It's a 2-mana 2/1 with flash and flying. That's already good. The fact that it says whenever your opponent draws their second card each turn, you draw a card. Yeah, I mean, you never have to activate that 4 mana to draw a card thing. You literally can just slap this down on the board. Right as your opponent's about to cast a draw spell. No way in hell your opponent's going to counter this, because I don't think it's really that worth it. You draw a card. Control Shell. Yes. Mono blue. Maybe. Mono blue is a little iffy on the 2-drop slot because we want impulse and stuff like that. If you're talking like strictly mono blue and standard. This card's a little iffy. I see this working out a lot in control shells. You know, the whole idea of just like, you draw, I draw. That's definitely always been a control thing. Will this card be in more aggressive decks? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Hi, JJ. We're just reviewing some cards here. But Fairy Mastermind, there's not really too much to say about it. And Commander, yeah, it'll definitely be one of those cards where it's just like, it kind of fits in with Heliod here, the whole idea of like forcing your opponents to draw cards. So if you're going to be playing a Heliod deck where you're forcing your opponents to draw cards to benefit yourself, this is a card that you would immediately put in with that, put in that deck. So yeah, is it a good card? Absolutely. Would I give, what would I rate it? Maybe a 6 out of 10. It's all right. I don't think there's too much to say about it. It's just a good like your opponent does something, you benefit from it. And yes, there is a lot of people drawing extra cards in Standard right now, so it's going to be played in Standard. Moment of Truth. This is 1 and a blue for an instant. You look at the top 3 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand, one of them into your graveyard, and one of them at the bottom of your library. So we have, this is a different sort of impulse effect. So we can put stuff at the bottom of the deck and in the graveyard, and one into your hand. If there's any sort of benefit for putting things into the graveyard right now, this would be the way to do it. So that you'd want to dump something that has a flashback cost and what have you. And the story here is Elspeth took the Silac as it was being activated and like shunted herself elsewhere. But we can see by the artwork that she's clearly not dead and she's coming back. So we don't really know what's going on, but I'm very excited to see the 10-chapter story, which is, I don't think that they could have done any less chapters if they wanted to cover this amount of like stuff going on. Not to mention, there's going to be, I'm trying to remember how many side stories they said they have. I believe they said 8, which every single plane in existence is getting invaded. We also saw a preview art card for Invasion of Chandalar, and we haven't seen Chandalar at all in a long time. Chandalar is usually the set that they put, like, or the plane that they put core set stuff on, but we don't really see that much about it. I would like to see a full-on set in the Chandalar, making references to that old 90s Magic the Gathering computer game. I think that would be a very cool choice. Regardless, Moment of Truth is just a decent impulse effect. Impulse is still better because you can look at 4. Putting something into a graveyard might be more relevant for different kinds of decks, but is this card great? It's, you know, it'll see limited play. Will it see standard play? Probably. Look at my handsome boy prize. Oh, thank you. Let's see. I'm doing my best. I'm gonna work out after this stream. And then I gotta go to work at 4. Graveyard like a discard pile? Yes. Yes. So like anything that like instants and sorceries go to the graveyard after they've been played. Creatures when they die they go to the graveyard, etc., etc. So, Jinkataxius, we see Jin here. He doesn't have legs anymore, he has tentacles, so it looks like he became one with Tekrithal. 3 and 2 blue for a 5/5 Phyrexian Praetor. He has Ward 2. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell with mana value 3 or greater, draw a card. That's a pretty okay effect. Looking at that effect alone without looking at the rest of it. Mechthulu. I'm finally learning this game. I'm so proud of you, JJ. I'll sit you down and we'll have like an actual lesson about how to play the game at some point. Looking at just the part that says, whenever you cast a non-creature spell with mana value 3 or greater, draw a card. There's a lot of good non-creature like spells that cost 3 mana right now in Standard. But, you know, you have, what's... I'm trying to remember the name of the 4 mana... Memory Deluge. You know, those sorts of cards, like you draw a card and then you go and dig. There's also counter spells that you would probably run because of this card. That being said, the whole idea is you pay 3 and a blue to exile Jin-Gitaxias and return it to the battlefield transformed under its owner's control, and you can only activate this if you have 7 or more cards in hand. So, the idea is you want to draw a bunch of cards. So if you cast a non-creature spell with mana value 3 or greater, let's say you cast Silver Scrutiny for 1, you would draw an extra card. So the idea is you want to draw as many cards as possible, then activate this, because the backside is nuts. So this is the Saga side of Jin-Gitaxias, and it's called the Great Synthesis. So this is an enchantment as a saga, and if you don't know how sagas work, as soon as it enters the battlefield, you put a lore counter on it, and then you proceed down the line until you have no more lore counters. So, the first lore counter, as soon as this thing flips, you draw cards equal to the number of cards in your hand. So, you already have to have a minimum of 7 to flip this. So you're essentially drawing 7 plus cards as soon as you flip this. And, obviously to compensate, you have no maximum hand size for as long as you control this enchantment, the Great Synthesis. Then it says, return all non-Phyrexian creatures to its owner's hands. That's the second saga. So, that's the one that we wanted to look at. Excuse me. So, returning all non-Phyrexian creatures to their owner's hands is a very, difficult thing there. Hi, Hatter. Oh yeah, my birthday was a few days ago. Thank you though. I very much appreciate it. Much love, much love. Oh, whoa! Five gift subs, thank you. My goodness, holy crap. Thank you so much. Wow. Thank you, that means a lot. Wow. I'm up to 43 subs now? Thank you. Goodness gracious, I didn't expect to get so many subs on just a Wanton stream. Thank you, Hatter. Much love. Appreciate you very much. So the disenchantment here is very much dangerous if you can find ways to remove counters from it. So to go back to the return all non-Phyrexian creatures to their owner's hands, you can lock your opponent out of the game. Thank you again, Hatter. By the way, I don't want to see thank you. That means a lot. Especially on an off day where I'm just streaming for the hell of it. I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, I think my Twitch notification might have gone out and be like, oh yeah, it's my birthday, but not today, but I appreciate it. I think it's because I started streaming and I had the wrong information. But thank you. I really appreciate it. That's a really wonderful birthday gift. Thank you. So, the third part of the saga is an omniscience effect. So you can cast any number of spells from your hand without paying their mana cost, and then you exile the Great Synthesis and return it to the battlefield. So this thing doesn't go away. It literally just comes back as Jin-Gitaxias. So you can do this again. You can activate this over and over again. So, this card's nuts. So, the idea of just bouncing everything to folks' hands, casting any number of spells, without paying their mana costs. I don't have to say how good this card is. It's just really good. It's going to be a very fun commander card for the people playing the card, not for the people on the receiving end. But the fact that you have essentially a Cyclonic Rift, a non-Phyrexian Cyclonic Rift, makes this card kind of just insane. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing this being played. I don't know if this will see play in Standard. It's a 5-mana 5/5 with a Ward 2 and Mono Blue. I don't know if this has a place in Mono Blue. Definitely doesn't. I'd say this has more of a place in a control shell, where you're, trying to get away with, casting, bigger spells in the late game. This thing hits the board, it's immediately a, yeah, it's pretty slow. This thing hits the board, it's a lightning rod. The fact that you're playing this for 5 mana, it means that your opponent's probably at least caught up enough to be able to pay the ward cost. That being said, if they try to play a removal spell, and you have the mana they have to pay the ward cost, and then you can spell pierce it. That's not bad. So then you would just need 1 extra blue. So the idea is it's just typical blue stuff. You play a blue thing, and you have to be able to protect the blue thing. So it's just a good card. Absolutely, I'd give it an 8 or 9 out of 10. Actually, I'd give it a 10 out of 10. I'd say this card in Commander is gonna be nuts. This card in Standard, I'd say I'll give it a 7 out of 10 because it'll be another piece for a control shell that control doesn't already But Control really doesn't need any more stuff right now. It's already a good shell. But regardless, move on to the next card. So, this is the sort of face card of the set. Breach the Multiverse. Let's see here. So, it's 5/2 black for a sorcery. Each player mills 10 cards. For each player, choose a creature in that player's graveyard, and you put those cards, creature or planeswalker from that player's graveyard, put those cards onto the battlefield under your control. Then, each creature you control becomes a Phyrexian in addition to its other types. So I guess the idea here is that, like, you literally just turn all your crap into Phyrexians, which is right on. Is this gonna be played? I mean, it's definitely a commander card. This is very much like a fun commander card to play. Let's see here. Is it gonna see play in standard? No. I don't think so. I mean, unless you're gonna put this in a control shell, but this is kind of niche. So, like, the idea is that you play this in big 4-player groups. So you want to, like, want everybody to mill as much cards as possible. I'm talking about, like, Jaleva type effects. You want to just get as much stuff in folks' graveyards as possible. Is this a card for a mill deck? Yeah, sure. I think so. Yeah, you literally just grab stuff from everybody's graveyards, including your own. So, maybe this does see some niche play in standard. The thing is, though, you're milling 20 cards, and you want your opponent's stuff to be just as good as yours. This is technically a really good reanimator effect. It's 7 mana, mill a bunch, get something that you have, and also get something that your opponent has. But what are you going up against instead? You're going up against soldiers, you're going up against mono blue, you're going up against control shells, but you do grab creatures or planeswalkers. So it's kind of a hit or miss, but we'll have to wait and see. I think this card's going to be awesome in Commander. I'd say this is definitely like a fun, like 8, 9, 10 out of 10 card in Commander. And Standard, I can't really honestly give it a good review. It's probably going to be about like a 3 or a 4. It's not a super playable card. But yeah, not for 7 mana. Though with that Heliod, the idea of somehow reducing the cost of this card is very appealing. If you can cast this for, say, like 4 or 5 mana, that would be aces. Okay, next we have our Planeswalker that we've been shown, Chandra Hope's Beacon. She is 4 and 2 red for Legendary Planeswalker, Chandra. And she has a passive Planeswalker text that says, excuse me, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, copy it. You may choose new targets for the copy. This ability triggers only once each turn. So, that by itself is appealing, obviously. But this keeps going. So +2 is add 2 mana in any combination of colors. That's interesting. Any combination of colors. We haven't seen a Chandra that actually is just like, she has a Manamorphose effect now. So the idea is like she can just +2 and add any colors. So she isn't just strictly mono red, which is, like I said, super interesting there. +1 is exile the top 5 cards of your library, and until the next turn, you may cast an instant or sorcery spell from among those exiled cards. So, exiling the top 5 to grab an instant or sorcery that's going to get copied. Good synergy with herself. But she also has a starting loyalty of 5. That's relevant for this last, so it's a -X. So it deals X damage to each of up to 2 targets. So to any target. So you can hit face with this card. So you can -4, blow one of your opponent's things up, and also hit them in the face. You could blow up a bunch of stuff. This card is going to see a lot of play in Standard. Big Red is kind of a meme, but I think that this card's going to help it be like an actual thing. The whole idea of being able to play a 6 mana walker, do a decent amount of damage, even if you have her get killed. 6 mana to deal 5 damage to 2 different targets is pretty relevant. That being said, when she hits the field and you +2 her, and then you can cast something from hand, and then get that instant and sorcery spell copy trigger. Also, it happens once each turn, so you can cast spells on your turn, and then cast something on your opponent's turn, and do some serious damage. This is very much exactly what you were looking for if you want a Spellslinger Planeswalker. This card is very good. Mark my words, this will see a lot of play in Standard. People will try to play... Grixis is already a relevant deck, so mark my words, this card will see play in Grixis shells, and I think it might even bump out like cards like Sorin, because this card is just doing everything you want it to do in that sort of Grixis shell. So, in Commander, it's a Planeswalker, so Planeswalkers are always iffy in Commander, because they can get easily just chewed up and spit out on the board. But if this card sticks to the board, this card's going to be nasty in Commander. I'm just saying. Standard, I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10. If it, and I genuinely do think this card will see a lot of play. It's just it's a genuinely good Chandra Planeswalker. Alright, so now we're moving on to the weird legendary pairings we've seen from March of the Machines. So this is Galta and Mavrin. So we're on Ixalan here. So Galta being the giant 12/12 trample dinosaur, and Mavrin Thane being the mono white vampire. So 3 and 2 green and 2 white. So this is expensive. This is a 7 mana creature, but it's a 12/12 with trample. So you're getting very premium stats. 7 mana 12/12? Yes, obviously that's good. With trample, and it has more upsides. Whenever you attack, choose 1. Create a tapped and attacking XX dinosaur creature token with trample, where X is the greatest power among other attacking creatures. Or create X11 white vampire creature tokens with lifelink, so Ixalan vampires, and X is the number of other attacking creatures. So this is whenever you attack. So Galta and Mavrin, I don't know why you wouldn't be swinging with Galta and Mavrin, but think about that for a second. That is exactly what you want to be doing. Like, the whole idea of, like, you can just have this on the board, and even if somebody, like, has a pacify effect for it, it still triggers, it still does something. So if you want to, for whatever reason, hold back Galta and Mavrin, this is just whenever you attack. So, is this a good card? It's a 7 mana 12/12 with trample, and I'm sure Reanimator decks are going to have an immediate place for it. So the idea, so you create a tapped, so that dinosaur is like greatest power among other attacking creatures, so that lets you go tall. The creating vampires lets you go wide. So this is exactly what you would want for a tokens deck. In standard, it's 7 mana, so like, it doesn't see play, it'll try. Will it get played? We'll just have to wait and see. And there's nothing green-white right now that shrieks to me like late game big token thing. In Commander, tell you one thing, this is going immediately in my Selesnya tokens deck, my Dristani deck. Timmy is happy, absolutely. This card is very much a Timmy card. Just play a big thing and slap it down on the board and then keep going with it. Is this card going to be good in standard? No, it'll probably be a 3 or 4 out of 5 just because green-white notoriously doesn't have anything that they don't play big things right now. Will they because of this card? There's a chance. So I'm not completely sleeping on this card. I'll give it a 4 out of 10. And Commander, I love this card. I love it so much. It's not the most amazing card in the world, but it's like definitely exactly what I want to do in Commander. So I'm gonna have to give it a personal vibe of like 8 out of 10. Is it actually? No, it's like a 5 in Commander. It's not anything particularly amazing. But if you can ramp into this 7 mana 12, so you can get this out like turn 4, turn 3 with like a bunch of ramp, this card's amazing. But we'll just have to wait and see. I know it's like my catchphrase. We'll have to wait and see. Okay, so here's another legendary pairing, Drana and Linvala. So 1, 2 white and a black for a legendary creature vampire angel with flying and vigilance. She's a 3/4. They're a 3/4. Activate abilities of creatures your opponents control can't be activated. And Drana and Linvala has activated abilities of all creatures your opponents control. And then you can spend mana as or of any mana or mana of any color to activate these abilities. So we gotta think, what do we have in standard that's like an activated ability that's something that'll be interesting? So this is all creatures your opponents control. So you're definitely not going to be able to do stuff like Blitz. But if you think about it, Phyrexian Sleeper technically works. It's a really weird one. Let's see, I'm trying to think what else. I don't think Phyrexian Sleeper technically works, quote unquote. There's the 2 mana that you can pay 1 generic to buff it over and over again in mono black. I'm trying to think of all the activated abilities. Well, this obviously hits mana dorks and stuff like that as well. Yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking really hard about this one. I'm thinking about activated. So this also takes stuff like Recruitment Marshal, I believe that's what that card is called. The 1 mana 2/1. 4 mana 3/4 for a Flying Vigilance is a good body. Shutting off your opponent's activated abilities is pretty alright, but I'm just trying to think if there's activated abilities of creatures specifically. I'm just trying to think if there's anything right now. So here's a weird one. It gets the activated abilities of Planeswalkers if Luxior, that equipment that can make Planeswalkers creatures, it can technically take Planeswalker abilities if that happens. It's such a weird niche interaction, but I was just thinking about it. Is this card good in Standard? We'll have to see how many activated effects there are. That being said, shutting down stuff like Jinkataxias, which is what we just saw, that could be interesting. In Commander, this is obviously an amazing card. Just like literally shutting off activated abilities. Just super, super powerful. In Standard, it's a 4 mana 3/4 with Flying and Vigilance and black-white. I'm going to give this card... My creativity is lacking right now for like when it comes to Standard. I guess it takes a Blood Tithe Harvester is another one. It can't be activated. I guess, yeah, no, Blood Tithe Harvester. I'm trying to think of some more. Anyway, there's a lot of these. There's a lot of activated abilities in Commander, so that'll be the way to go. So, so you have to pay the activate, you know. So activated abilities, as we know, are like you have to tap, you have to pay some sort of cost for them to activate. So, you know, but well, I like this card too, Kev. I like the card because of number one, the pairing of these awesome characters is just really right on. But in Standard, I don't think this will do a lot. In Commander, this is definitely one of those, like, it's another stacks piece, and I think I like stacks. I like playing stacks. I 100% agree with you there, Kev. I love these two a lot. Standard play, we'll have to wait and see. Probably not. 4 mana 3/4 Flying Vigilance isn't exactly premium. And in Commander, like I said, this is a stacks piece, so this is a good card. Okay, so this is a big spoiler. So this is the Aftermath. So they're doing... This isn't technically part of the main March of the Machines set. So, yeah, F and chat for the Kenrith. So, the Aftermath set is going to be 50 cards, and they're going to be sold in 5-card packs, which will probably be ludicrously expensive if you had to guess. I would hope that they cost the same amount as other packs, so about like $4 or $5, but we'll wait and see. So the whole point of the Aftermath is storytelling stuff. So these cards aren't like super duper powerful. They're not like standard breaking cards. They're just storytelling cards. As long as the Gingerbread Man makes it, that's Gingerbrute. Let's go. Gingerbrute survived the Phyrexianification. So, Kenrith Royal Funeral. 2, a white and a black for a legendary enchantment. And whenever it enters the battlefield, you exile up to 2 target legendary cards from your graveyard. Specifically, your graveyard. You draw X cards and lose X life, where X is the greatest mana value among cards exiled this way. Legendary spells you cast cost 1 less to cast for each card exiled with the Kenrith Royal Funeral. So, Standard, no. I mean, this doesn't seem play in Standard. Just kidding. I think there's actually one very niche deck that this would see play in, and this would be the Joda the Unifier deck. So the whole idea of like you're just playing non-stop legendary creatures, you're gonna have legendary creatures. I don't know if there's probably not a whole lot of reanimation going on in that deck. So being able to just play this on 4, gaining life and drawing cards. So this isn't a 4 mana do nothing when it hits the field. And then legendary spells cost 1 less to cast for each card exiled with Kenrith's Royal Funeral. You just play legendary tribal with Jodo with this card. So that is the shell I could see this card fitting into. Otherwise, this card's amazing in Commander. I mean, this goes without saying. This card is pretty much exclusively made for Commander. I mean, in Commander you're playing a lot of legendaries. Excuse me. So, and this it makes your legendary spells cost 1 less to cast for each card exiled with the Royal Funeral. So if you have a double up effect, you can hit more than 2. So you can make the Kenriths marriage, going straight into Kalia and Eddie Markov. Yeah, absolutely. This, I mean, making your legendaries cost 2 less to cast, because you're pretty much always going to hit 2 legendary creatures when you play this card. Self-mill, I could see Dredge type decks like wanting to have this. Reanimator decks would love this, getting rid of cards that they aren't particularly going to reanimate and just making use of them. This card's really, really, really awesome and cool and super flavorful for Commander. I'm going to definitely give it an 8 out of 10. And Standard, there's only one shell I could actually see this card fitting into, so... it's you know, it's a hit or miss card. Like I said, I would love to see this card in the Jodas shell. In Standard, I'm gonna have to give it a 2. This is not gonna see play. It's not a bad card. I just don't think it's gonna see play at all. That being said, there's a lot of legendaries right now, so we'll have to wait and see. I'll bump it up to a 3. Mark my words, 3. Okay, and the card we were all waiting for is Yargle and Multani. So, 3, 2 black, and a green for an 18-6. And the flavor text is the most important thing here. I've heard much about you from my daughter, Multani rumbled. There was a time when I'd balk at your aid, Phantom, but she has shown me the merit in Urborg's strange ways. Ganash rubber, replied Yargle. So, 6 mana, 18-6 for 6. I mean, like, 6 mana, 18-6. Think about that for a second. Why was this card made? For the meme. It's a vanilla creature that is an 18-6. It is Bargle time. It's Margle time if you combine Multani. So, like, this card's good. I don't have to say anything. 10 out of 10 on both sides. Yeah, no, nothing. Nothing else. Nothing else to say about this card. Moving on. Okay, this card has got me, like, irreparably hyped. Like, you cannot calm my hype on this card. So, Thalia and the Gitrog monster. I'm going to make this a commander as soon as it comes out. I hope you know that. Okay, so 1 in Bant mana for a 4/4 human frog horror. So it has First Strike and Death Touch. One of like 3 or 4 cards in existence that have First Strike and Death Touch, which makes it pretty much unbeatable in combat. So, and that, it gets better. This is the questing beast of this set. You may play an additional land on each of your turns. Creatures and non-basic lands your opponents control into the battlefield tapped. Yes, more stacks. And whenever Thalia and the Gitrog monster attack, you sacrifice a creature or a land, then draw a card. I love this card so much. This is exactly what I would want. This is exactly what I would want Abzan to do. I want to draw cards. I want to stop my opponents from doing the things, and I also want to play extra lands. Like, this card is so good. There's so many different ways you can take this deck. You can make an. I think one of my favorite ideas is making an Abzan Aristocrats deck. But this is also a Abzan ramp deck. You don't even need to attack with this card for it to be really good. I love this card so much. I can't even, like, begin to, like, express my hype. It's just, like, I'm overloading with how much I love this card. This with Drana Linvala is just bonkers. Yeah, and you can fit those two together. Like, this card is going to be seeing standard play. Like, this card, I was like, oh, this card's made for Commander. No, this card is really, really good in Commander. Like, this card's really good in Commander. Don't even get me wrong. This card's a 10 out of 10 in Commander. I'm going to be playing this as my next Commander, for sure. Don't get me wrong. But in Standard, this card's nuts. So this card is going to see a lot of play in Standard. So the whole idea of there's already a deck that that's like being kind of built up with Titania. The idea of milling or getting land cards in your graveyard and being able to flip her and have a big old Titania, the flip side of Titania. So think about that for a second while you're putting your lands into your graveyard and getting that off. This is... Man, Siege Rhino is rolling in its Tarkir grave right now, am I right? The Cathar and the Forg. Yeah, the Forg. I love this card. Like, this card, I guarantee, as soon as it comes out, it's going to be 20, 30, 40 bucks. Because this is the questing beast of the set. This is a 4-mana 4/4 that does it all. Not it all, but it does it, like, it does all the things it does. Is they do it very well. Also, who doesn't like a badass soldier, like, that's like well known throughout the lore for just being a genuine badass riding a giant frog? Like, one of the most popular commanders ever. I'm just saying, I love this card. I love everything about it. Like, if you're ever wondering what to get me as a gift, this card. That's it. Get me. I don't. I know I just play Commander, but I will take 7 copies of this card just to have it. Okay. I just want to make that 100% clear. Okay. Moving on. 10 out of 10 on both formats. I don't give a shit. Okay. Now that I'm coming down off of my Gitrog Thalia high, Omnath, Locus of All. This is a. I think this is a buy a box promo. So. Omnath has finally got his 5th color of mana, and we were all wondering if he was ever going to get that, or they. I don't think Omnath is a gendered being. So white, blue, Phyrexian black, green, red, green. So it's weird. So. Okay, I think we can all agree that the casting cost is just bizarre. But a legendary creature Phyrexian Elemental. If you would lose unspent mana, that mana becomes black instead. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, you look at the top card of your library. You may reveal that card if it has 3 or more colored mana symbols among its mana cost. If you do, add 3 mana in any combination of colors and put it into your hand. If you don't reveal it, put it into your hand. The slightly larger Phyrexian mana symbol hurts me. Yes, it's a bit bothersome. But I kind of like it. It has a weird sort of charm to it. Is this card good? It is essentially a 4 mana 4/4 or a 5 mana 4/4, depending on how you're casting it. But 2 life kind of equating to 1 mana, that's fine. So let's say it's a 4 mana 4/4. If you would lose unspent mana, that mana becomes black instead. I mean that'll be relevant, I'm sure. The idea of pre-combat main phase, getting a card out the top, you don't want to spend that mana that you just got from Omnath. Obviously, okay, so there was a deck that came out specifically with Capenna. It was I think it was called Meeting of the Families or something like that, which specifically allowed you to cast 3 color spells. So this card might have brought that whole silly deck back from the dead. Am I here for it? I'm 100% here for it. If I could play like all these 3-color, if I could play 3-color tribal and standard, you know I'm doing it. Like, that is such a fun, stupid jank deck that I actually have mostly put together. I love this card in the sense that it brings that deck back from the dead. Is it a great card? No, not by any stretch of the imagination. But the fact that it can potentially, you look at the top card of your library, and then you put it into your hand if it has 3 or more colored mana symbols, and then you add mana, yeah. And even if you don't reveal it, even if it doesn't, it's still technically just draw a card. But it doesn't say draw. You reveal and put it in your hand, so it's better. Do I love this card? Yes, 100%. Is it going to see play in standard? I think people will try. I will definitely try. In standard, I'll give it a 4 out of 10. In commander, you know it. Any 5-color legendary card that's printed, people are going to try to make a commander out of it. Is this card really good? Absolutely. It's fun in commander too, because it's a very interesting deck building challenge. So the idea of having 3 different colors of like all of your stuff. So you put all of the I'm trying to think of a good example here. You put all the 3-color stuff in there. So you want Esper, you want Obscura. I'm not gonna be able to name all of them, but anyway, you want those charms and stuff like that in that deck because it does a lot. Is this card fun in commander? 100%. I love it. It's cute. Standard, not so much. Okay, so these are March of the Machines commanders. So this card will be available in the pre-release packs. So, which is interesting that they're separate. So this card is really solid. I don't even have to tell you about it. You can just take one look at it and be like, oh, that's a 3 mana 3/4 that does more things. Great. So it is Grixis mana for a Goblin Human. It's Goro, Goro, and Satoru. Satoru Mizawa and Goro, Goro, the Goblin Samurai. So this is a 3/4 legendary creature Human Goblin, like I said. Whenever one or more creatures enter the battlefield this turn, deal combat damage to a player. Excuse me. You create a 5/5 red Dragon Spirit creature token with flying. And then you can pay 1 and a red to give your creatures haste. That's nuts. This card is super aggressive, and I love it. So, also, I just noticed that the lightning from Goro Goro's sword, like, comes around and makes a dragon. That is so cool. I didn't realize that. It bugs me that this isn't a goblin human samurai. Well, Kev, I think... So here's the thing. It would have to be a goblin human samurai ninja. Because Satoru is a ninja. So it'd have to have 4 creature types. So it'd be weird. But I understand why they didn't want to put 4 creature types on a card. But yeah, no, like this card's awesome. This card looks like a very, very fun... And honestly, I could see this being a good budget commander. Like, just playing, like, hasty creatures, getting a bunch of 5/5s. Like, you're gonna smack somebody down really quick. I also love samurai. I wish there were more samurais. I'm right there with you. I'm not even arguing with you there, Kev. I love me some samurais. So this is specifically for commander. Is this going to be a fun commander? Absolutely, yeah. I think this will be a chase commander. It's a really fun budget commander. Like, getting a bunch of hasty creatures. There's a bunch of creature tokens with haste. You know, slap stuff like the Locust God in there. The idea of just giving your stuff haste. Like, you can literally just play a creature and then give it haste with Goro. You get, you know, the drawbridge card and all that. Just giving your stuff haste and swinging in. It's like, card's fun as hell. It's something that we don't see a lot in Grixis, is just the sort of aggressive side of Grixis. And I love this card. I really, really hope that somebody in my pod decides to make this their next commander. I love it. I love it very much. If nobody in my pod makes this their next commander, after I'm done building Feli and the Good Frog monster, of course, I will make this. I'll make this just for a fun haste commander. Just like play a super aggressive deck. Because aggro is something that's highly underrepresented in commander. But I could go on about how much I love this card, so let's just move on to the next one. Here's another commander card. I love this card too. So, so this is Jund Mana. This is Slimefoot and Squee. So Fungus Goblin. So whenever Slimefoot and Squee enters the battlefield or attacks, you create a 1/1 Saproling creature token. And you can pay 1 in Jund to sacrifice a Saproling, to return Slimefoot and Squee, and up to 1 other target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. And you can activate this only as a sorcery. Is this card good? Yeah, it is. I mean, it's gonna be so much fun to play in Commander. You're essentially playing... You want to have things that make Saprolings, and then the rest of your game plan is just dumping a bunch of giant creatures into your graveyard. So and red's perfect for that, because red likes loot effects. So you're always going to be tossing something into the graveyard. And paying 4 mana and sacrificing a Saproling is just a very tiny cost. Also, the fact that this costs only 3 mana and you can get a Saproling on the board immediately is just like perfect. So, the fact that you can attack with it and get more Saprolings, this card's going to be really easy to cast. It's going to come out turn 2, turn 3 all the time. So, do I love this card? 100% I love this card. I would love to see somebody put this deck together. This isn't the kind of deck that I would play, but I would love to see this put together, because Reanimator decks always fascinate me. Is this if I had to give it a rating, it's probably a good 7 out of 10. I'm sure there's better Reanimator decks, like Beamtown Bullies does a similar thing, but not really. I love this card. I love it. I love it. I love it. I'll give it a 7 out of 10, like I said. Alright, Catilda and Lear. So, interesting one here. So this is Bant Mana for a 3/3 legendary creature human. Whenever you cast a human spell, target instant or sorcery card in your graveyard gains flashback until the end of turn. The flashback is equal to its mana cost. So, this begs the question. Are you going to have instants and sorceries enough with your humans to be able to capitalize on this? And the answer is, if you're building your deck correctly, absolutely, yes. This card doesn't seem to go anywhere other than just human tribal. And I mean, it's definitely one of those cards. It's like it's probably going to be the commander almost 100% of the time. It's like a Loro. It's another one of those cards where it's just like you don't see it anywhere outside of the command zone. This card is a very cool card in the way that it inspires very intriguing deck building. Do I know off of the bat if this card's going to could be a weird token spell human? Yeah, see, that's exactly what I was thinking. I'm not smart enough to be able to like immediately think of a bunch of fun, cool stuff to do with this, but I'm sure there's a lot of folks that are smart enough to come up with some like really insane, stupid stuff to do with this deck. There's a lot of cards that create humans, so I don't know. I'll give it a 6 out of 10. I don't have too much faith in it. I don't think it's going to see a whole lot of play, but it's technically a human tribal that does something different. So I think that's cool. in the regard that it's not like all the others. So let me see what we got here. So that's Omnath. Even the boring is pretty good. Flashing back path and stuff. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that flashing back your removal. I think we've gone through all the cards now. Let me double check real quick. Have we gone through all of them already? I believe we have. Wow. Okay. Oh, well, okay. No, we will talk about these. So we did get some cool previews for we're gonna be seeing Plane Chase again, and I love Plane Chase. It's honestly one of the best, most fun ways to play Commander. So we have Isle of Vesuva. I know this one is maybe I can actually kind of rotate it. Is that going to show up while on stream? Cool, okay. So whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield, its controller creates a token that's a copy of that creature. Very Vesuvian of you. Whenever chaos ensues, I love that. Destroy target creature and all other creatures of the same name as that creature. So, yeah, it's just like, yeah, you'll get rewarded for playing non-token creatures, but you'll blow up the board, etc., etc. And I'm not sure. I'm not really sure what else to say about this card. It's really good. It's really solid. It's really fun. Like it's a planar card, so you wouldn't. It's obviously something that you just get from your deck. The fact that they're reprinting this and it's about like $5-8 right now is really awesome. Spatial merging, very much the same. I would love to. So, like, you know, whenever you encounter spatial merging, reveal cards from the top of your planar deck until you reveal 2 plane cards and simultaneously planeswalk to both of them. And you put all other cards revealed this way onto the bottom of your planar deck in any order. We saw that reprinted. These are being specifically reprinted for a Commander version of Plane Chase, which, very smart. And then Tawashi is the new one. So this is the new one that we'll talk about real quick. So, modified creatures you control have trample, and whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player or a planeswalker, draw a card. So whenever chaos ensues, distribute 3+1/+1 counters among 1, 2, or 3 target creatures you control. Also, the art for Tawashi is so stunningly awesome. This is gonna be a fine addition to a planar deck. But yeah, I think that's pretty much all we can talk about right now. That's all the stuff that we saw. We got plenty of artwork and stuff like that coming from the new set. But I appreciate y'all hanging out and stopping by and saying hello. I always like doing these little like mini. We're not going to be seeing any like real previews for a while because this set doesn't come out until April, and also we've just gotten done with Phyrexia All Will Be One, which you know, it's a pretty exciting set. But this set definitely has piqued my interest significantly more than Phyrexia All Will Be One. But yeah, thank you folks very much. I'm going to see if there's anybody live. No? Okay. Well, I appreciate you folks very much, and I'll catch you really soon. Thank you.